Episode 1. Hume's Death. It was winter and cool winds were blowing. Elvira Holmes, the daughter of Sherlock Holmes, is working on her table. Elvira wishes Mr. Jones good morning. Mr. Jones also wishes Elvira good morning and says, "There is a new case for us, Elvira." "Oh, I thought you would go for an outing." "Anyways, that's fine," answers Elvira. "It will not take us long to solve the case. We are the heirs of Holmes and Watson," says Jones. "You are right. Without further delay, just say me in brief about the case," says Elvira. "It is the case of Hume Dream," says Jones. "The millionaire of the city?" asks Elvira. "Yes, he's been murdered. Today his wife came and told me about it," was Joe's answer. "Let's go and visit the place where he has been murdered. We might get some clues," says Elvira. It will hardly take us 10 minutes to go there." "I'll make the car ready," says Jones. Both of them reach Mr. Hume Dream's house. The murder happened in a house with this huge security. The murderer is so intelligent," says Elvira. Jones also agrees with her. "Of course, there's a chance for the security to be foolish too," says Elvira, and both of them laugh at the joke. Manager Laura invites them into the house. "Thank you. The house looks so messy. You didn't meddle with the room, right?" Elvira asks Laura. Laura is frightened and says, "No, ma'am. I just came here by foot." Elvira, lowering her spectacles, says, "Yeah, you would come by walk. Your house is just 2 blocks away, right?" Laura is tensed and says, "How did you know that, ma'am?" Elvira says, "A detective observes everything." Laura is tensed and lowers her face. Jones asks Laura if she could give the list of visitors who came yesterday with the time of arrival. Laura, searching in a file, says, "Sure, sir, here you go." Elvira and Jones carefully read the list. The list says, Mr. Nicholson, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Mr. Carl, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Mr. Edwin, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Catching the paper in hand, Elvira roams all around the room. She goes near the dead body and sees a locket with L.E. written on it. Elvira, looking into the paper, says, So Mr. Edwin is the murderer." Jones and Laura are shocked. Jones asks Elvira how did she know about that. Elvira says, "Look here, Jones. The murderer was trying to control Hume by injuring him, for which he was throwing the items in the room on him. In one of his tries, he hit the clock and clock got damaged." Jones asks, "So how did you come to conclusion on basis of that?" Elvira says, "Jones, I believe you're not a kid. Observe the clock. The clock shows the time period of the Mr. Edwin's visit." Jones says, "Yes, I didn't observe it." "You're right, Elvira. No doubt. Mr. Edwin is the murderer." Elvira says, "Okay, Laura, the case is solved. But we have to know why he killed Mr. Hume. We will get to know that soon." "Okay, Laura, take the list." Elvira observes a scratch on Laura's hand. Elvira asks Laura, "What is the hurt?" Laura is tensed and says, That I got it when I was switching off the stuff." Elvira didn't believe it but says, "Okay, be careful." Both Elvira and Jones leave the house. On their way, Jones appreciates Elvira and says, "You're so observant, Elvira. Just like your father. You solved the case in 10 minutes. Elvira thanks him and says, "But Jones, how did you believe that Elvira would solve the case before getting proper evidences?" Jones didn't get her and says, "I didn't get you, Elvira." Elvira says, "Jones, I mean that we cannot come to a conclusion that Edwin is the only murderer. Just imagine, Hume is such a big millionaire. How can Edwin alone kill him? Also, Hume has a black belt in karate. Killing him alone is not so easy." Jones agrees with her. Elvira adds on that There are three more suspects in the case. First, Laura. Second, Nicholson. Third, Carl. The manager and the other two visitors, says Jones. Yes, we should interview each of them and then only we can come to a conclusion, says Elvira. Jones asks, so first, whom shall we meet? Elvira says, Edwin. We have to ask him 4 questions. First, how is your business going? Second, how do you feel when you look at other millionaires? Third, the managers of the businessmen are so beautiful, especially the manager of Hume. Laura is so beautiful, right? Fourth, how do you feel about Hume's death? Jones says, done, Elvira. You ask the questions and I will observe them. Okay? Is Edwin really the murderer? What is the meaning of LE? Why did Elvira suspect Laura? Will the 4 questions help them identify the culprit? To know this, please see our next episode.